You're live.
Hello and welcome to this session of the NATS Virtual National Conference. My name is Dana Lentini and I am an independent teacher who is continually inspired by our next speaker. I am pleased to introduce this session entitled Change Your Fee Structure to Change Your Life, presented by business strategist and independent studio owner herself, Michelle Marquardt DeVoe, who is founder of the Speakeasy Cooperative and the Faith Culture Kiss Studio for Voice and Acting. Michelle is her own beastie boss and loves educating voice teachers on the nuts and bolts of running their independent studios. Complete biographical information on Michelle can be found in the digital program book and this session's listing in your guidebook app. I want to remind you to note questions you might have as you listen to this breakout session. Michelle is happy to answer as many as possible, but please enter your questions in the chat box and our assistants will help moderate your questions. Enjoy.
Dana! I love that. You never know what anyone is going to say when they introduce you. So that was really generous. Thank you. I appreciate that. That was really nice. Okay, friends, here we go. So expectations for the hour. And this is what we're going to do. We are going to fast and furious through the basic understanding of what these fee structures are. This is not, friends, this is not about pricing. So you're going to see numbers today that assume that you already understand pricing. If you do not, then that's another time, but it's outside of the scope of this time together. So just know that we're using these numbers as placeholders and that there are other ways to deal with what your price should be. This is just how do I structure what I am charging once I figure out what I charged. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. I can't do it that way. Hold on. Share my screen. We're going to go over these basic things and then we're going to have question time because I know that a lot of people just have particular questions. All right, here's the deal. We're going to talk about hourly. We're going to talk about tuition. We're going to talk about value-based. And then at the end, I have some brand new stuff I want to talk about subscription model, okay? So what are these things? I'm going to go through this real quick. Hourly is what a lot of people do. It's pay per service. It's what most teachers refer to as hourly. It entails being compensated per lesson, but not necessarily anything else. So it's pay to play, right? Now, let me be clear. Even if you are charging, even if you are invoicing a month at a time, you are probably still hourly because you are invoicing for the amount of lessons, the time that people are going to be with you. This is a great model because it offers freedom. People can come and go as they please. You can cancel and book as you please. It's great for people who want true flexibility, great for other income streams. It's great if you have a bookkeeper because you're not trying to keep track of a million payments all the time. And it's great always to have as like in your back pocket for like one-offs and drop-in lessons. Where this can be challenging is a true hourly model is really complicated and can be perceived as nickel and diming. The teacher becomes a service provider, so we become transactional in our relationship instead of transformational. So, I give you money, I'm the student, I give you money, and then you give me information. And it's very much like this instead of inherently building in connection, inherently building in commitment and communication. And then also there's often anxiety about getting paid. Y'all know what this is like. If someone doesn't come to their lesson, you don't get paid. And that doesn't feel good. So it definitely needs accommodation for makeups. You need policies around no-shows and cancellations, and that can get super annoying to have to continually state your boundaries, stake your claim, and say, this is what I need from you. So we want to get rid of that. Tuition, let's define this. This is when clients pay for long-term time-based services, so we're still selling time a little bit here, but we're doing it over a set of period in one lump sum or a series of payments. And there is a commitment involved. The opportunities with this are built-in cancellation buffers, built-in holidays, considerably less stress when scheduling, right? We're reducing, we're eliminating friends, eliminating makeups. Doesn't that sound delightful? And then stable cash flow, friends, cash flow. When is money coming in? When is it going out? This helps you be mindful of your cash flow much, 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 much better than a pay per service. And you can take care of that however you do your banking and your cash flow. You can do that whether you have a lump sum or you do it by breaking that lump sum into payments. So the challenges with this, you can read. If you don't get this thing set up right from the get-go, it's going to be real hard to keep track of sessions and where students are in their lesson package. So you need to have some systems in place. You need to have some tools, whether that's software tools or checklists that you're using and spreadsheets to keep track of things. You need to figure out a plan for proration when students enter outside the established studio time frame. Now, I want to kind of clarify on this, because many tuition-based models, the teachers like to follow the school year, right? So they're going from whenever the school year starts to the school year ends. Maybe it's a 9-month chunk, let's say, for example. If you do a rolling admission for your tuition and you make it more about 6 months or 9 months or 4 months or whatever, then you don't have to prorate it, right? Because you're just kind of doing a rolling admission kind of thing. You do need to have your yearly calendar planned out as well as you can. So if you're more of a spontaneous person, or there's a lot of things on your calendar that you're not quite sure when they're going to happen, you just have to let your people know that. It is very helpful to know when you are going to be closed, right? And then you got to be willing to maintain healthy boundaries, help your people understand. Here's some other challenges. You get all wonkified around money and pricing, right? So am I supposed to be charging for weeks or am I supposed to be charging for lessons, right? So because we're leaving the time-based model, if we're stuck in this per lesson idea of how much lessons should cost X, one lesson equals X, that can be hard to wrap your brain around what the pricing needs to be here. You need to come up with different messaging and not accidentally do a punch card. So a punch card is not a tuition. A punch card is someone has paid you $100,000 for 10 lessons, and every time they take a lesson, it gets taken off. That is not a tuition. The scarcity and the fear. It's super hard to switch things up if you have not switched things up yet. Oh, look, I say maintain healthy boundaries. Again, almost like you're really going to have to do that. Okay, value-based pricing. This is my favorite. Full disclosure, in my studio, I use all three models. So I do drop-ins, I do tuition, and I do value-based packaging. I used to only do value-based packaging when I only ran a voice studio. But now that I have this other revenue stream with Speakeasy, Cooperative, and with the business coaching, it is too hard for me to put everybody on value-based packaging, and you're going to see why in just a minute. So I only have one at a time, one student at a time that is allowed to have that kind of package. So this takes into account the value you add, friends, the scope, the details of what is offered to each overall client, regardless of time. Regardless of time. Time is no longer the thing we sell. Time is the tool that we use to produce results. This model no longer focuses on time, allows the teacher to customize a plan, and offers several options for working together. So both the teacher and the client have an idea of what is expected and demanded. Higher earning potential, friends, deeper relationships with clients, revenue goes way up, work is appropriately accounted for. I mean, students really get more of you because they're investing in the results. They're investing in the goal set. But let's get real. This requires thought. You have to take time. You can't just switch this off and be like, oh, I'm going to do value-based packaging because that's going to make me more money. It is not going to work that way, okay? You have to really figure out, what do you bring to the table that is different? What do you bring to that particular student, and how can you help them? And that might require changing up your onboarding process, all sorts of things. Again, if you've got some money mindset stuff going on, you're going to get wonkified when it comes to the money stuff. So you've got to be ready to kind of deal with your own relationship with how you view time and money and all of that. Finding your ideal clients is essential. This isn't going to work with just any old person that comes in the door. So messaging needs to be clear. You've got to know what you're selling to whom. Yeah, clear messaging to clients who have never done this before. They're like, I don't understand what you're trying to sell me. You have to know your product well enough. You have to know what you're offering well enough to help them, because they don't know. How else would they know? What music teacher does this, right? How else would they know? More challenges, the what if set in. Well, how do I use time? What do I mean about time? It always goes back to this time money thing for people, and that takes some time to untangle. I feel like I said these things already. Whatever. Being realistic about what you can and cannot provide is also very important. So my suggestion is that if you are a novice teacher, that you seriously consider what it is you bring to the table. And if you are at a place where you can really provide in terms of network and expertise and so many things, like, just be careful if you're a novice teacher. I'm not saying you can't do this. Just saying be very clear on what you can provide. Oh, look, must be willing to set healthy and maintain healthy boundaries. Of course. First things first, for any of these models that we're going to talk about today, we're going to get to subscription in a little bit. You need to know what's in your hour. So you can see down there on the bottom right here that I've given you the URL. You can go to that on my blog and you can put in your email address. I make you pay me an email address and get this downloadable worksheet that will help you work through these questions. So what you've got to know, and here's it again, by the way, what you've got to know is what you are charging for before you start doing any of this, because it will help. Number one, it'll help your mindset. And number two, it'll ground why you are doing what you're doing. So for example, there are tons of things that we do that do not directly create revenue. Attending this conference is one of those things that you are doing that is not directly creating revenue, but it adds to the value and the experience of what adds to the value and the experience of what the client is going through, right? So all these things look familiar. I'm hoping you put it in the chat. I'm going to read the chat later on the YouTube. Tell me what looks familiar to you. What are you coming up against right now, right? We're all getting the mindset stuff. This is all stuff that has nothing to do with actual direct time. Friends, are you paying your PayPal fees? Are you paying your PayPal fees here and stuff, your credit card fees? How about this? The time and energy, this one, let's point this one out extra big today since the themes in our conference are so important right now. If someone brings in a song that has a history that you don't know, you're going to be spending time on that. As well we should, right? What about this? Being lovely. When we're tired and someone's texting us at 11, what else do we pay for? This is what my initial fit lesson is. And this is what I would like you to do. I would like you to break down what you are actually doing. What you are actually doing in your first lesson. And that's before and after. So you can see here, there's much more than the actual time in lesson. Oh, look at this. In my onboard, my phone consult is included in the fee of that initial fit, right? So you're going to give something away that the client facing perceives as free, but it should never be not charged for. It's got to be looped in to your cost, right? Then I got to send an email, and then I got to do this, right? And then they're going to email some questions. I have fixed this, by the way. I fixed this in my onboarding. They don't email me back any questions, but they might still for you. Look at way down here is when we actually get to the time we're spending together in a lesson, right? And then what? Then what? All of this time that I take to really create the best thing for them, to watch the lesson again, to dig in. What is going to be the thing that solves their problem? What are the tools I have? How can I get them to where they're wanting to go from here, right? Then we've got these right? So when I show you all this, now does it make more sense that my initial fit lesson is $180? It's $180, friends, currently, because I need to get paid for all that time. Now, in addition to what you are literally doing, you need to take into account how much energy each of these things takes you, okay? So I'm not going to dig too far into this, but I can say if you would like to read the book, The Big Leap. So that is The Big Leap by Dr. Gay Hendricks. He really expounds on this concept about your energy and where you're spending your time. We do this in the How to Run program too. I don't really like the entire book, but I really love this Zone of Genius stuff. And you could probably Google it. You could probably Google Gay Hendricks Zone of Genius, and this stuff is everywhere, right? But I want you to take into account your energy level around certain things that are in your business administration and in your customer service so that you can charge for those, because something that feels exhausting should cost more to you, to the client, right? We need to charge for the things that feel exhausting, and we need to charge for the things that we love and that feel great, right? So just, that's a little wet your whistle type thing. Get into that too. Okay, so let's dig in. Tuition, value, and then at the end, I'm going to show you what I came up with this morning around subscription. Example time. What is tuition? Tuition is, how do I want to put this? Great. We'll just do it as an example. So tuition is, let's say you have a time period from, in our example, it's September 2nd through May 25th, right? There are 39 total weeks available in that time period. You have gone through your calendar and you have decided that your studio is going to be closed for 5 of those weeks. So you can choose to have, I'm going to even just color this right over with right over, right? Because you can have as many as you want. You choose to have flex weeks or bonus weeks. And then the total number of lessons for the term that the client gets is going to be 30, okay? The cost of the term is going to be $3,000, let's say. Like, don't worry about the cost and all of that. They have the option to pay in full, pay twice a term in the term, monthly payments, but they're going to do it on auto pay, all right? Now, again, we're not getting into pricing, but this is just to like give you an idea. So there are 30 lessons that are actually going to be taken out of 39 weeks that happen between September 2nd and May 25th, for example. You are closed 5 weeks, which gives you 34 open weeks. Oops, that's really big and awful. Let's do this. 34 open weeks, yeah? But the number of lessons they have available to them is 30. Okay. Those 4 weeks that you are still open, so there's 4 weeks you are open, they may or may not come, right? You can do this in 2 ways, either a flex week or a bonus week. I'm going to do the flex weeks first. A flex week is when a student can show up or stay home. That's the whole point, right? You can use these flex days or flex weeks as sick days, mental rest days, vacation, tech week. Maybe they just need a break. This is flexible for the client and the teacher. So if you need to change something, you can change over to a flex day or a flex week. Don't worry, I'm going to show you on a calendar in just a second. I have the amazing Nikki Loney to thank. I stole her stuff. She knows it. Don't worry, it wasn't really stealing. Moving lessons to a reserved time or 2 weeks or period later in the time frame of the tuition. This is what a flex week is. So that this is when we're open. If you have to cancel within these weeks, you can boop your lesson to these reserved days that you can make up your lesson if you want to. And look at training as a long process, right? So they're already thinking that this is a process, and then they have their security built up around that. If you do this as a bonus week, which is what, oh, I'm frozen. My screen is frozen. I'm going to stop share. My screen got frozen here. Oh, look, we have questions. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, I'm going to get to your questions in a little bit. All right. Let me re-share my screen. There we go. When we do this as a bonus week, what it is you still have those 34 weeks that you're open, and then the client comes to the 30 sessions, but they or you can just take a session off. Because you're open for the 34 weeks, they have 4 weeks that they can come or not come, right? When you're messaging this to the client, they see as paying for 30 because that is what you are selling them, in addition to all of the other things from what's in your hour that you are bringing to them as part of their tuition and lesson experience. Here's an example. This is the flex week one, right? Nikki does this. So you'll see Nikki is open, this week. She's open this week, and this week. She has her closures because Canadian Thanksgiving was on my birthday in October 7. In October 2017, Canadian Thanksgiving was on my birthday. And then she has these flex lessons. So these are the 2 days that Nikki, any people that came into their lessons here, if they ever needed to cancel because they were tired or sick or whatever, they booped their lesson into one of those days. Yeah, pretty cool. And then the white here is when she's closed. She lays this out clearly in her policies. Notice how she is not shy. She is not shy saying, this is what, oh, look, we were already doing online, way fancy before. Look at this, very clear. So notice that she is kind and she is clear. This is what I love, and this is all language that I am 100% out for. What if I don't get my makeup lesson? If you are concerned with the thought that you may be charged for services not rendered, everyone just put this sentence into your life right now. Please be assured that your tuition is always working for you. And you are allowed to tell your students, you're allowed to say to your students, I spend a great deal of time and money outside of lessons, purchasing repertoire, planning, and attending teacher workshops. You are allowed to tell people what you do in order to make things happen. All right? This is how it changes your life. You can use flex weeks as last minute cancels for your own health and sanity. How many of you, put it in the chat that I'll read later, how many of you have gone through with lessons at a time when it was not appropriate for you to go through a lesson simply because you needed the money. We want to get rid of that. We want you to get paid for time that you're open. We want you to get paid that you are in the office, even if your client chooses to not show up to the office. This changes your life because you're getting rid of the need for makeups and reschedules. Your policies are now worded around an overall service, which is the time that you are serving them over the year, over the months, whatever, not the individual service. And if you were at my pre-conference workshop, this is a big one, friends, because what are you communicating? If you only do drop-ins and you only have pay per service, what are you communicating about the belief you have of what kind of training it takes to make a singing voice healthy, strong, and efficient? You can come whenever you want. You can drop in, da-da-da-da-da. How about we get everybody committing to the process if that fits in your pedagogy. If it does not fit in your pedagogy, ignore me. This gives us more mental energy. It gets us compensated and it makes us happier. If you think that your energy is not going to translate into the studio, you are wrong. It will. Happy teachers are better teachers. All right, let's talk about value-based now. What you've got to do is you got to really bust out this what's in your hour worksheet. This is a really important thing for you. Determine the scope and the needs and the goals of the student. This is going to take time. It's not going to be something you can do just in the lesson. I need some water. Determine the length of time needed to reasonably achieve what you need to achieve. This can be different depending on what the goals are. If the goal is to get into a college program, first of all, you have to reframe that for clients and say, I can't get you into a college program, but what I can do is make sure that you have the best package available to you in any way, shape, or form. You can do that. Then you come up with your tiers. How can I serve this? Here's the best way that I can do it. Here's the almost best way I can do it. And here's just barely getting by, right? Don't worry. We're going to look at an example in a second. And then we're going to talk about this retainer model. You can either have them on retainer, because like a long-term one, let's say like determine the length of time, like with the college thing, right? That might be a 3-year project, but like getting ready for an audition in 3 months would be a 3-month project. So you might need to do it retainer based, or you might need to do it total. What is this about? Here's another book that you get to read, friends. This is a free PDF book. It's older, but I would really like you all to read it. So you can go ahead, take a screenshot if you need to, so that you won't lose this. And what this does is it allows us to understand that value-based pricing is about client value of accomplishment rather than time, okay? So what you'll see here is one that I've given before, where I have these different levels. There's this beautiful kind of introduction letter to the client telling them, here are the things that I've figured out for you. And then you'll notice, I kind of hid some of this, but you'll notice like this was the specific package. This was a student who they were doing an audition in Florida. So this is exactly what they needed. And then I gave them 2 options. You can do kind of the cheap version or the more expensive version, and this is what you get with that. So here's more examples. Here's our nice cover letter. And you'll see that I've done all of this. This is what you will get. This is what you will get in this package. This is when you get the amazing everything could be ever included. Look at what I can do for that, because the goal was to have a very, very solid audition for a top tier group, right? And maybe if you didn't want to spend that much money, here's what I can do instead. And then if you really didn't want to spend that much money, here's what we could do instead. 3 things that they can offer. And then messaging to the client. This is not about paying for time. This is investing in your goals. Again, it is okay to clearly communicate what you need to and what you want to, right? So that's what we're doing here. Here's an example of a long-term tuition package, friends. Okay, so here's your opening letter, kind of your offer to them. And this is what we've done. This is what I'm going to focus on with you based on what I've learned about you. This is what you've told me you wanted. So this person wanted what? They wanted to develop some stuff. I would probably use different language, right? Because I know more now. But this is what they wanted to work on. That's what they said they wanted to work on. So they wanted to work on this, and then really, because I have acting emphasis in my studio as well, this is what we were going to do all together. Then it was a college audition preparation process. This person, I think, was the sophomore. In addition to the weekly lessons, here's everything that will be provided for you, right? This is everything that you're going to get. And for that, you will pay a retainer, because the retainer is going to take us more than, like, I can't just be, I mean, I guess I could have been like, it's $25,000 for the whole shebang, but I didn't, because this is going to take a little bit longer, right? Now, what if you look at that and you're like, oh my God, $1,000 a month, which is kind of the point, because what you want to do is you want to communicate to your client that, like, what you do is worth a lot of money, that you're like doing a heck of a lot of stuff. So, you know, showing them the top tier stuff, showing them what you can really do for them, that's good for your brand too. Here's the second one, friends. This is the second level, gold. So you noticed we've cut some stuff out. It's not everything. We've reduced what? The scope. Now we're only looking at these 3. Acting. Now we're only looking at a couple things here. Music theory is going to be dealt with differently, right? But still, those key things that the person really wanted are still included. You might have noticed that now we have semi-flexible scheduling in this middle tier, so that there are reschedules at cost. But up here, fully flexible scheduling. Reschedules at no cost, right? But you got to pay for that. That's a perk. Then, lastly, all right, there's the bare bones for you, right? There's the bare bones. This is what we'll do in training. This is what I can offer. This is what you'll get in addition to that. This is what it assumes. By the way, no scheduling, no flexible scheduling, firm scheduling, right? And that's what you're going to pay. And then there's our important note. Now notice, this is not part of the policies, by the way, that I've given. This is upfront information as a proposal. This is an upfront as a proposal so that everybody knows what they're signing up for, right? All right. How do you think this changes your life? Reduce the number of students, because you can't be fully flexible when you have 50 students, people. It's not going to work. So this increases your ability to serve the student in front of you, right? But it reduces the number of students that you're going to see. So you have more brain space, you have more flexibility, you have higher relationship stability with the families, with your clients. You have time available for the other stuff that you do, right? Are you performing yourself? Are you directing? I used to do this when I would be directing youth theater. Are you doing business coaching, right? It increases your revenue because you've communicated your value properly, and the right client will eat this up, right? Plus, it increases your mojo. You just feel good. Now, is this the right thing for everybody? Not at all. But this is how this one changes your life. I love it. This is why I changed to it, because I felt like I was underserving my students because I was too busy with too many students. So this is why it was right for me, because I felt like I was underserving and I did not like this. What will work for you and your studio? What do you want your studio to look like? Okay, I said we were going to talk about subscription. We're going to do that now, and then I'm going to go through Q&A. Because I think you cannot, I mean, you guys are smart. Or you people are smart. I'm sorry, I should not have used gendered language. I apologize. Where's my notes, friends? Where's my notes app? There it is. Look at what I came up with today. This is amazing. So let's do a new thing. How do I do a new note on my iPad? Y'all, you'd think that I would figure this out by now. Okay, there. I see subscription models as when value-based has a baby with tuition, right? And the aha moment that came to me today, which is why I totally took out all of the subscription slides of my other thing, is this Venn diagram. And I'm really thinking that subscription could be the way of the future. So let's go rogue and let's think out loud today. So here's my proposal. We are selling 3 things when we do voice lessons. We are selling time, we're selling access, and we are selling results. Okay, that's value. So if we look at it like this, here's time. Here's access. Access to us, right? Like all of our awesome, everything in our studio, everything we do, yeah? Hope that's clear. And we are selling results. Each one of these models fits somewhere. If we are only selling time and access, y'all, that's hourly model. That's hourly. Time and access. Here's my time, you get access to me. If we are selling time and results, that's tuition, because we still need the time. Some people like to see this many lessons, right? But if we're selling access and results, that's when we're doing value-based pricing. But there's this magic little thing that happens in the middle, and this was my aha this morning, y'all. That magic little thing, that's subscription. That's subscription. So what goes in this magic little area? A subscription is a monthly retainer or a monthly fee that you are paying in order to have access to a place, get time with your professor or with a group of professors, like the collaboration, right? Your teacher, your voice teacher. I think that independent voice studio owners are also professors, right? And get results. Now, let's be really clear. Your definition of results needs to be very clear, right? You need to understand what results are. And results aren't necessarily what the student, you have to be clear about what you have control over and what you don't. A lot of times students come and they say, I want this thing. I want to get the lead in the show. Well, the reality is there is no control over that. So no one can bring results to that. Nobody. The student can't, you can't, nobody. So it's your job as the teacher to help them redefine their results. Redefine results, because what do you have control over if you want to get that big lead in the show? You have control over how much you practice. You have control over helping with the correct rep, right? Repertoire for that. And the cuts that go in the audition. What else do you have control over? Feeling confident, feeling good. That's all stuff that you have access to and that you can give real results about. So if your question is, well, how do I guarantee results? I don't know how to guarantee results. Well, rethink what the results are, because nobody is going to answer anything that they don't have control over, right? Okay. That's enough of me yakking at you. I'm going to go and stop the share. And now I'm going to look at the chat. So our fantastic moderator has taken questions from the YouTube and put them in my chat. I am going to choose which ones I want to answer. If your question is not in the scope of this presentation, hit me up some other time. We'll figure it out. I'm not going to answer it. Okay, question. When I was a student, a tuition-based model was not well explained. What do you suggest laying out? Okay, I think I answered that. There was a lot of conflict with families who felt shortchanged in the short months when they had lessons. Yeah, so now you learned a thing. You learned what not to do, right? You learned that you need to figure out exactly what you're selling. So how would you suggest laying this out? Is you tell them the truth. This is what is happening. This is what we are doing. This is what you are getting. This is what it costs. And it's a contract between you and them. It's just as much about your commitment to them as it is their commitment to you. What is your student demographic? My current student demographic is not the same as it was when I was only on value-based packaging. So my student demographic when I was only value-based packaging was high school, mostly women. I did have a couple male students, but high schoolers who were gunning for top 20 musical theater or acting programs. That's what I did. Hold on, the chat's going really fast. Please talk about more what's in your hour. There's a whole blog on it, so go back to the blog and we can post that. I don't know, if someone is on the chat who knows my website and you go to blog/what's in your hour, can you post the link? That would be helpful for somebody. Thank you. Do you use a platform to track students what number they are on? So I use Acuity, and that helps me track everything. In my world, I don't care if they come, I don't care. If they come to all 34, how we said we're open for 34 weeks, even though they're paying for 30. If they want to come to all 34, it's no skin off my nose. I'm open anyway. That's why I know when I'm going to be closed up front, right? And that's why it's a bonus to them, because then they feel like they're getting some extra mojo. They want the what's in your hour. It is not only for Speakeasy Cooperative, but I totally hold it hostage. I guess that's not an appropriate way to say that. I totally make you give me your email address for it. So it is on my blog. It is not only for Speakeasy people. It is for everybody in the world because I want everybody to get their head around this. Okay. How do you offer fully flexible scheduling with a full high school studio? They all have such specific schedules. Okay. I think I answered that already, but basically you don't. You don't offer full flexibility with a full studio. You can't. So that's when you would lean into very specific parameters around no cancellation and specific parameters around the way that you will handle when people get sick, when people need to take a tech week, and that's where your flex weeks would come in. So a tuition model might work better for someone who wants to have a full studio. Question, why not use Venmo? Okay, that's outside of the scope of this day. Basically, you can if you want, but Venmo ain't going to protect your money because it explicitly says this is not a business transaction situation. Unless you sign up for a business account, which why would you just use PayPal that's owned by the same company? What product service website do you recommend for online payment and autopay? I use Acuity connected to Stripe. Square is a great one. I mean, I'm personally, I'm not a huge PayPal fan, but people love it. So, hey, if it works for you, then do your thing. I love Acuity. Do you have onboarding examples? I do, but that is outside of the scope of this hour. For novice teachers, how can we make that? Okay, I think I addressed that as well. If I didn't, please put it back. I would say be very clear on what you can offer and the specific results that are within your control that you can bring. Because you're really good at something. You are very, 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 very good at something. So it's your job to figure out which thing you're very, 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 very good at and then go with it, you know? You might dabble in doing a tuition-based model for most people, and then maybe you have a couple students that you have really good rapport with or that are willing to experiment with you, like you were all willing to kind of jump into my cool subscription thing today, my aha moment, and you can say, I'm going to try out these value-based things. Let's see what happens. The other way you could transition into value-based is by doing very specific small goals. So like maybe you create an audition prep package that is only for one show. And then in that package is you go over their resume, you go over their headshots, you go over the rep choice, you do the cuts, you figure out the accompanist situation, you offer 3 to 5 lessons to prep for it, you do a character write-up for them, you give them all the links of everything they have to study in order to get familiar with the role and the historical context of the show. Like you just do all this work for them, but then it's very limited and you have control over doing all of those things well. Okay. Question, did you do extensive market research before you changed your fee structure? No, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I didn't need to, and I'm not saying don't do extensive market research. I'm saying I personally did not because my studio was full. So what I did is I said, who are the students that I can tell are my ideal client? Who are the students that are already invested in me, that I am investing the most time in, and what can I create for them and for kiddos like them and their parents to give them what they need? So I guess you could call that market research. After I started developing the product and I already had my students that were signed up for it, I did more research about like college auditions, and I even went to Unifieds a couple times because I wanted to make sure like I knew the experience they were having. I had a couple clients where that became part of their package. Like I will go to Unifieds with you and give you mojo, you know, while you're there, help you through that process. And that, do you want to know who wanted that more? Not the kids, it was the parents. The parents would be like, please come with me and hold my hand and make sure that I am not being a stage mom to my kid the whole time. It was fantastic. So, and then next question, how do you manage your time and boundaries with each student? I am clear about when I communicate with people. So I tell them up front, I love to communicate with you. I only check my email from X to X on these days. Or you can text me whenever you want, but I'm going to get back to you on my time. That might be in a day. I try my best, you know? It's about being clear. So this question, let's go rogue again. Even though this isn't in the scope, I think it's important. The only person who can draw your boundaries and know your boundaries and communicate your boundaries is you. So if you are not doing that and you have not clearly and kindly and continually said, this is what I do, this is how we work together, this is how I say yes to you, they don't know. Nobody's going to know how to treat you until you teach them how to treat you, right? So I don't get mad when people try to bump up against my boundaries. I get mad when they do it over and over and over again. But if they keep bumping and I'm getting mad, but I haven't been like, let's have a better understanding of how this is going to work, right? If I haven't communicated it, then that's my responsibility. I have to take personal responsibility for what I'm allowing to happen to me. And then it's a deeper conversation if the boundaries keep bumping up and bumping up and bumping up. Okay, I'm going to try to get through these questions. There's so many. Is there a limit to how many lessons student can have per week? How do you prevent feeling overworked? I do not put a limit. I just say no. I say, I'm burned out, so I'm not going to give you a very good I'm not going to give you a very good lesson right now. Again, preventing feeling overworked. Who is responsible for you feeling overworked? It is not your client. It is you. So if I'm feeling like, okay, I've done too much, then it's my discipline that I need to increase? My discipline muscles around my own time, right? What do I personally do? I turn off my phone and I put it in my office. I turn off my computers. Another thing I do is I ask my husband to keep me accountable. I say, hey, I need you to not let me touch my phone for like 15 hours. I ask my kids. They're great. They're great at keeping you off your phone because they want to spend time with you, right? So sometimes I'll put alarms on my phone that's like, hey, have you gone for a walk? Hey, how long have you been working? I also schedule my time. So I know when I'm working on purpose. So I have time that I am working on purpose, whether it's in face-to-face lesson or it's giving a presentation or it's preparing the presentation and practicing it. I schedule that so that I never feel like, well, I do feel like this because sometimes I forget to schedule, so I shouldn't say never. So that I'm working toward a consistent model of knowing where my time is going and knowing that there will be time to get the things done because I have planned for it rather than reactionary working. Reaction working, I proactively work. What happens when a student signs up for the tuition package and after some time they don't continue? I don't understand that question. I don't understand what you're asking, as in like they sign up and then they don't show up to lessons, or they sign up for one tuition package and then they don't want to do it again the next year. Can you clarify that question, please? What are the specific differences in the subscription model versus the value model? So I think, like I said, it was a little bit, that's a good question. Like it's a little bit of a baby between the value and the tuition. So I would say the subscription is where you're like paying a monthly fee to get access and specific number of like specific lessons, right? You will have at least 3 lessons. You will have 2 lessons, whatever you decide. So the access they have to you is all of your evergreen content that you've created. So like if you've created videos, if you have a backlog of worksheets that you've created or anything like that, like that's what they have access to. And then they get the time with you, but they're joining it because they have a goal in mind that they can help, that you can help get them to. So it's a little less personal. The way that tuition is a little less personal. Tuition is like, everybody gets this, right? This is what we do here. Where value-based is very, very personal. Like I had a different contract with every student, different goals, different sets, right? I hope that's helpful. What part of how much of this should be on your website? That's up to you and what you want to communicate, right? It's up to you on how you want to bring people into your studio. I think that when you are starting out doing this, you should just say, we do things a little bit different here. Go ahead and book your call. And then you can explain it on the phone because that'll help you understand what you're doing. And if they will not be able to read it well, then you set it on the phone. The other thing you can do is you can put a video of yourself. You can make a Loom video and put it right there in your website and say, hey, this is what we do here. This is how I do it differently, right? We already did that one. How do we deal with the current COVID situation with so many on a very tight budget? So that is outside the scope of this class. This is on how you're structuring your pricing. Let me think about there's so many answers to that because it depends on what you're going to do. Let me think about that one and see if I want to come back to it. How do we keep our services accessible to parts of the community that aren't wealthy? That's a great question too, outside the scope. If you are just opening a studio, should you start this right away or wait until full? I think tuition is something that is worth starting right away. Now, just to be clear, you can still do drop-ins. You can have tuition and drop-ins because you might have a different type of there might be some students that tuition just doesn't work for. Just make sure that you're charging a higher rate for the drop-ins than what would be perceived, because we want to incentivize them to commitment, right? Wait right away. I mean, I think you've also got to figure out, you have to figure out who you serve. And so if you're just opening a studio, you're probably going to be experimenting a lot, figuring out who you can serve, but you can definitely be like cooking this up in the background. You can absolutely start it right away. I wouldn't stop you. Just make sure that you know what you're cooking up, and make sure you're clear about the kind of students that you're getting. So when you're just opening, you're usually going to kind of invite everybody in to get an idea for yourself, who you like to work with and who you serve best and who you want your ideal client to be. So it's an either or. And then what do you do if they stop paying their monthly payment? Well, that's a tricky thing. So you can just kick them out of your studio, right? You can kick them out of your studio. That's one thing. And say, you haven't paid this. I mean, I would do it nice. I wouldn't just like, bye. But, you reach out to them and you say, oh, I still haven't gotten paid. Here's the way, looks like there was a mistake. Here's how you can get this all taken care of. Here is the link to the thing that you need to pay. And if they continually don't pay, you need to get on the phone, right? So no emails. If you have hard conversations around money, especially because this does go to the COVID situation, you need to get on the phone and you need to talk to people, and you need to say the hard conversations and like, hey, I haven't gotten your payment. Is there anything we need to talk about or anything we need to discuss for me to work with you still? So you've got to know your desired outcome. Do you want to keep the student? Is it a person and a family that you would like to keep in your business, and maybe you're willing to do some owner's discretion kind of finagling with money and times and all that? Or is it a person that it's just not a good fit anyway, and it's probably best that you bless and release them, Lastly, my professionals are out of work, unemployed. What is your suggestion? So I would create a group thing for them that will bring you volume at a lower cost. So instead of trying to only offer these really high ticket one-on-one private situations, I would do maybe group singing classes, group content, and have them pay a lower rate, more like a subscription, right? A lower rate. And then if they wanted to fit in another like private session, that's when they can pay a higher rate for a one-on-one thing. Right. And then I would increase the scope, increase kind of who you serve, and figure out which demographics that you are currently serving or maybe could serve that you're not yet serving will support the pricing that you have come up with. So I would not deliver the same service for less price necessarily. Now, you can make an owner's discretion choice about that, though, too. It's up to you, right? So there's only one more minute. I got the wave telling me that we're ready to go. I want to thank you very much all for coming and for hanging out with me today. It was a lot of information to get through, and I appreciate you understanding that I could not go down certain rabbit holes because they were outside of them. What else? I think that's it. I think we're done. So I guess I'll say goodbye. Join us in the Speakeasy Cooperative. If you like, reach out and let us know how we can serve you. And we'll talk later.